Morning, everybody. Good morning to those online too. Thank you for coming. But I'm giving a talk today on the Shroud, the Resurrection, and ACIM is where I am with all three of them. This is the book that was given to me. I don't know if anybody's interested in finding. I've got some photos, pictures covered here. What's ACIM? A Course in Miracles. How best can I approach this thing? And I tried to write down some things and some questions that we can all let me just start this way. The Shroud, the Resurrection, and ACIM now show us how to look at this world of separation as I see it. I may go on the wrong place. Hey, sorry. My fault.
Should be a one.
I can come back from this. I can't, folks. It's good. Okay. The Shroud and the Crucifixion were in the mind of all that is, or consciousness, since the separation that is talked about in ACIM. How can we know this, metaphysically speaking? Anybody have an idea?
Because there's no time. Everything that always was, it always is. Speak loud. Oh.
How can we know it? How can we know it metaphysically speaking? Experiential. This is how I see it, is that crucifixions were in history for well over 1,000 years. You have several, the Phoenicians, Philippians, whatever. They all used crucifixion as a way of controlling the people in the world. Okay. The Romans took it up probably 300 or 400 years before Christ, and then perfected it, to say. But the Romans didn't have time to beat one man, then to shove a crown of thorns on his head, and to put him on a cross. He was probably the only man who ever suffered this way underneath Roman control. Pilate was not a nice guy. Pilate was a Roman who was known for bringing under control the servants of Rome. Pilate crucified over 1,000 people in Israel over a period of just a few months. The streets, the roads were covered in crucifixions. Okay? And so the reason I say that this was always in the mind of God from the very beginning is in the manner in which he was crucified. It is the only crucifixion like I can just absolutely guarantee almost. I mean, I can't think of another one. And then we have the shroud to prove it. Why is it something that you can agree to that you don't believe that the shroud was falsified? Do you believe that it was a man who was actually in that cloth that for some way and some reason was able to leave his figure on that cloth? Do you believe this? Anybody?
This is the Shroud of Turin?
The Shroud of Turin. Okay. Now I guess I put down here, would you say that the shroud is backed by overwhelming evidence? It truly is. Okay. There's no doubt that this is what it is to me. So, is it truly the burial cloth of Christ? And yes, it is. Do you believe in the Orthodox teachings, agnosticism, or is the secret hidden in both? What do you think? I mean, Merle and Charles started this whole thing, the church, with the, I believe, the agnostic teachings that are still available today. Metaphysically, the church, and this is one of the reasons I stay at Unity, is because I feel that the truth is here. And my truth is different from everybody else's truth. It's just the way it is. Yeah.
So are you talking about the idea of, was Jesus real? Was he really a person? Did he really get crucified? Is that the point that you're trying to make here? Is that he really existed?
Well, that's just one of the points. What I want to do is I want to be able to tie the complete thing that I see anyway that is in this world. Okay. And whenever I had my own views, I used to cry over the shroud. I just couldn't believe we could do this to an innocent man. And to this, I still have this problem. This morning, my wife was showing me a WTF or WTS, what the WFT is, Springfield, whatever. And there's like 7 white guys on this one black guy. And he's got a knife and he's keeping them beat off. And then the police showed up, and what do? They make the black guy go sit down, and he let all these white guys go. And of course, of course, I'm automatically like, well, let's just go down there. We got to approach the city council. You know what I'm saying? We got to do something to figure this thing out. And then you come to ACIM. ACIM says that they're both wrong, and that I'm wrong for even thinking there's a wrong action that happened. Because none of this exists. None of it. It's a lie from the very beginning. Every part of it is a lie. If I validate that the black guy is being put upon in the back, or the white guys are being put upon by, if I validate their insanity, then I'm a part of the insanity. Okay? And this is what I have the hardest time with, is trying to get over my own humanness. Okay? It's just and I believe there's a lot of people that have walked away from ACIM just simply because they were not able, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to. It is a very simple thing that is extremely hard to do. And why I say it's hard to do is because if you really did this correctly, did what it was telling you to do in the ACIM, we would all be considered nuts. Automatically. Yeah.
I understand this conundrum because in the last year or so, it's one of them that has come to me. Because in the Abraham group, Spirit spoke through automatic writing. And it said, when do you understand these principles? Why are you using metaphysics to put your finger in the dike and hold back the bad stuff? Why are you using it for that? It's the creative power that we have to create worlds, to create anything. And we use that power to fight the story we created before, instead of creating a new story.
I like that. Good.
This could be what Jesus had in mind when he just said, resist not evil.
Yeah.
It's really simple. It's 3 words.
Yeah.
And we try to make something very complicated out of it.
And
as soon as you start fighting evil, it's like throwing gasoline on a flame. It just explodes and gets worse.
well, but this is the same time as it says to me in the ACIMs that neither exists.
They don't.
God is
They're not
God.
what they appear to be. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Because it doesn't matter if I'm on good side or I'm on evil side. I'm agreeing that all sides are right. Because I'm in this world and
As an
I'm
individual.
falling victim to the ego also. So, you know, it's such a, and my wife gets really upset at me because she's one of those that has just, you know, there's a right and there's a wrong, and there's no right or wrong. Both are equal brothers in my eyes. Both have got to be saved, no matter who they are. That they believe that this insanity that we're in is the correct one, is the problem. And we can be subject to this at any time. You know, just first thing this morning, I'm attacked by it. In a sense, because I'm watching this stuff that my wife's got on her phone, and I told her, no, I don't want to watch it. No, I don't want to watch it. No. And then she's, you know, she's bound determined that I had to watch it, and I had to make a statement about it. And at first, I'm like, I'm up in arms. Oh my gosh. And then I started thinking about it. Wow, I just fell victim to the same thing that all of these individuals were victim to. Because you're a victim of it. You know, there's no such thing as sin. Sin does not exist. You err, you do wrong. Does God who lives infinitely on a particular point and is neither past or future, but is only here and now, as soon as the error is committed, he doesn't have a memory. He's gone. He's moving on. And the only thing I can do, and the only way I can stay up, is to forgive myself for having been confused and lied to by the ego again. And then I moved on with him, and that's the only way I can stay up. Because if I get lost in the past, I keep trying to commit to a future that's may or may not exist. I have no idea. And it's a hard thing to do. Yeah,
So I don't know about for others, but this leaves me with two issues that I have not yet been able to come to terms with and figure out. And number one is, I know that for a lot of people, to solve this issue is to say, if only I can overcome this, I can then go to the perfect place. Okay. And for me, there's so many fallacies in that. You know, God likes to do things the hard way. There's no sense in that to me. So there has to be value just in this physical world here, now, and being a part of it. So that's the conundrum. And that one is there value in just being in a physical world where all of this is possible, or is this a big mistake, or is this a big test? Tried mistake, tried test. They haven't really worked well for me, so I'm working on that. So then the next one is, then if there is value, then how do I relate to this world from the understanding that you have? And what I see most people, that understanding that this is just an illusion and things like that, then it's kind of like the goal is to get out of here. And that's back again to, this is a mistake. Do you see how it's
and I can see that. And
right, and how to resolve those things so that you can find a place here with that knowledge.
What I'm starting to even get, I don't know if I'm better at it or if it's becoming easier for me to do, is that I go straight into the Holy Spirit, or I go straight into the all that is. And because this is where I find my real answers at in this. And then here we have Each and every one of us fell away. All of us. When we fell away, the crucifixion was put in action, as I'm reading it. 2,000 years. What is 2,000 years in infinity? Why? It was just a couple of hours, but not even that. A couple of minutes in infinity.
Who did we fall away from?
The how it started, and I'm not going to. In a sense, I could go there with what I perceive it as, but then it's just my perception. Is yeah, because it's just my perception. You know, it's like it's something that you're going to have to go. Okay, so if I'm in a world where I don't have, where my ego is running it, we immediately went to our ego, and my ego is very good at being able to give me different reasons to run away because of fear, because of some perception that I have, and maybe I'm just running away from the answer that. Uh, so what is yours? So how do you perceive?
What would be the underlying contradictions to make it what it is today? In your view.
Oh no, for me.
Well, yeah, you'll get it from.
No.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, for me.
Context of what you have to say.
Yeah, for me, it's the there is an all that is, and I'm not part of it. Oh, I am, and I'm not. Okay, my ego keeps me separate from it.
Why?
That's something that I'm still trying to answer. I wish I had all the answers. I do. I wouldn't be here if I did. Yeah, Wendy.
So, I see what I'm seeing in this topic, in this part of the topic, is saying, well, why are we here like this separate? How did we become separate from ourselves here in this physical world? And how do we create things that make us miserable, or the suffering and all of the pain and stuff? And somehow that has to be, there had to be some way that at least part of us was separate from the true nature of who we are and who God is. Okay, and so how and why would that happen? I, rather than, for me, the way that I have found an answer to that is through the Abraham Hicks teachings, just simply that as an amazing, powerful, creative being, when I choose a more narrowed focus, this persona, ego if you'd like, everything, a more narrowed focus allows me to see things differently. Like each one of us sees things differently. So in that diverse perception, the life that we live here and that we bring here to it, it's like this huge library of stories that we love to read, and it inspires us to create new stories. When someone comes down here and lives a story, a different story, we're all going like, wow, and it's the bestseller, and we're reading it, and then it inspires us and said, now I'm going to go down and try this. And I'm, but I can't, from this big, huge perspective, there's no new. So rather than this persona or ego or whatever you want to call it, saying, this is bad, this is just what I've chosen as the vessel to create this new story. Now, having said that, some of us are creating the story of understanding this while we're here. And to start with, many had to see that separation of ego. Ego was something we had to overcome. And perhaps there's a point in all of that where ego isn't something we have to overcome, But ego is something that we can go, yeah, this is cool. I like this ego, this persona. I'm going to see where this story takes me. So I don't know. That's just kind of my take on that. And why, and in that, we're free to try anything. And in that, many of us create things we don't want and experience it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, if you're tied up with ego, it's difficult to see beyond yourself.
Well,
You can't see beyond yourself to the universal sense of whatever. If you're only caught up with ego as to who you are and who you identify yourself as in the moment. Like Ram Dass said, you're not who you are, you think you are from 9 to 5, but you're who you are from 5 to 9. You're the person you are, not what you do. So saying that, getting beyond ego is the first, in my opinion, the first essential step to moving beyond this plane of today. And you need to move beyond this plane to go wherever you think you need to go.
yeah, there's, and I introduced Bashar. I don't know if anybody knows Bashar, but Bashar says that we have this negative ego, but we have an ego, and ego is necessary to be in this world because this gives us the power to focus on an experience. We can see it, focus on it, and see what and where and how and why and blah, blah, blah. But the ego has a tendency to want to tell you why, because its goal is to protect you. We originally started this thing to create the ability to push others away and to protect ourselves because ourselves is all that we knew. And this is what we knew we had to stay at. And its goal is to tell us over and over again that something is going to get us if we don't do what it says. And we gave it that job. We told it we did not want to get hurt. And so it does all it can to survive inside of us. It does everything. So, at least this is how I see it. Go ahead.
This is true according to Course in Miracles. But, I think as soon as we lose sight of the fact that life really is eternal, and when we start squinting down to one little segment of it, like we're living here, and trying to get universal truths from it, we're shoveling uphill. It's not. I don't think it's really possible for us to get an eternal perspective from the narrow window we're looking through. No. We're just individuals here one time. Now, Abraham tells us that we've been here hundreds, perhaps thousands of times. And each time we get an experience. We have an experience.
We are our eternal memories. We just didn't come to born and begin and at the beginning and die and that's it. Your eternal memory is what you brought you here. The problem is a lot of people never wake up to those eternal memories and just live for ego for today. And that's where we are. What I liked about the Fillmore teaching, and particularly with Unity for years and years, was that they understood the power of what people before them brought as a work, whether it was native indigenous people, whether it was people like Emerson or many others who transcended time, who transcended the sense of the present, because you're only in the present to move to the future, that's who you're ultimately going to become. And that is the central core of unity, I think, is that whole idea of being able to see beyond the present and moving in a positive direction that unity assists you in doing.
Yeah. Well, ACIM talks about crucifixions we've had thousands and thousands of crucifixions. You know, because it doesn't matter what painful way you died, it was just another crucifixion. And what ACIM is trying to let you know is that you do not have to continue in the crucifixions. That the door or the bridge, there is in near-death experiences, there is a point that no one can go past, and it is called a chasm. It's this huge divide. Whatever it is in our mind that we fear it, however it is whenever we pass. What Christ, or what ACIM is saying, and what Christ says in the resurrection, was that he became the bridge. That with a little of his help, no, you don't have to get this perfect. No, you do not have to do. You just have to be totally and completely willing and knowing inside yourself that if you could leave this, you would. That you have no desire to be here again. He will lend his hand to pull you across the bridge, because everything that you've done, he is in control of the atonement. Complete control. Okay? And it's okay that you disagree with that. But in the atonement is salvation at one. And he, through the resurrection, became that at one.
And that's a good focus in the resurrection.
Yeah.
And whether you use Jesus as the bridge, it's one extent it's still the same. It truly is the same concept. In order to reach that place where you are not being driven by this persona here, you have to be able to mentally let go of this persona and trust in something more.
Very good. Very good. And it doesn't have to be Jesus that takes you there.
Oh, it's whatever in your mind gives you that ability to yeah, I mean, we're talking name, we're talking semantics. It doesn't matter. Whatever is in your mind as being that one whom you can trust completely and totally, okay, that one total spirit that you can believe in, because there's only one spirit, and it feels that total belief that you have, it will reach out with its hand and help you onto the bridge and bring you across. And this is what it says. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ro.
Hey.
I'm glad you said that, because you were really turning me off there with all that Jesus talk, because I keep
Yeah.
interrupted from evangelical fundamental Christianity,
Mhm.
and I'm really trying to find different languaging for that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well,
Yeah,
one of the-
and it is.
Yeah,
It
to me
is.
it's,
Right.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
that-
I don't
You
know
don't even have to use the word Christ. You can feel inside yourself a name that you trust. I don't care what the name is. It could be Joe Blow. I don't care. It doesn't care.
I see
Okay?
it's life force energy.
It's just life
And
force,
part of that
exactly.
life force energy,
what
and
we
my
have.
purpose here is to enjoy creation and to
As
create
much as you can.
creation, and to not over-identify with my ego, which I think is what over-identification with the ego is what you're going to do.
And we started that.
And incarnating like Jesus did, the divine, and living out, trying to, in my daily life.
Well, you know, just to get into the story of Yeshua, it's just mind-boggling, because we have no information. The only proof we have that there was a Yeshua, and that there was a crucifixion, and that there was a resurrection is in the cloth. That's all.
I don't really need all that anymore.
Okay.
I've deconstructed from that, and I don't really need that Jesus story.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just want to.
Well, I think that to carry the discussion a little further, particularly with what she's saying, is that people's perception over time of what they think, what is real and what is not real.
Yeah.
And if you believe in that story, and it is what you live by, basically,
Mhm.
in many ways, I think you're closing the door to what's out there.
Yeah.
Because if you go a little further can be by any name, whether you could call it Jesus. Whether it's you get into Taoism or Buddhism or another philosophy or whatever, that we are all one. You know, we return to dust, but we're cosmic dust.
Yeah.
You know, we're one with everything. You know, now whether you want to believe that or not, it's fine.
Yeah.
But anyway, there is a divine spirit.
Yes, and that's a lot. And you know, just the only reason I say this about what I'm doing here and what is that this is the road that I took. You know, whenever I first was introduced to the cloth, I was just astonished. The more information I got out of it, the more astonished I became. And then I got ACIM, and ACIM tells me that it was never crucifixion. It was only the resurrection. And all power goes through the resurrection. And there happened to be only one soul that brought it about at the time. I'm not saying that the spirit of that soul is not in each and every one of us, and we can all make that kind of a transition. But at that moment in time, there was only one soul who did it, one spirit. And that became all our spirits, and we can all take the same path. And so I'm like, somebody says, do I ever want to come back here? No, I don't. My goal is to never come back again.
Well, the goal of a Buddhist is basically to be far enough along the path that you don't need to come back.
No.
Because the Buddhist feels like they have lived enough incarnations in the world that they don't have to come back anymore.
No.
So it's not just simply you don't want to come back.
I don't want to come back.
You don't want to come back to who you are today.
Or
You know.
there's nothing left here for me.
That's the key here.
There's nothing left
You
here.
can't limit yourself or thinking to this is it, this is all it's ever going to be, and this is who I'm ever going to be. Because if you do that, you're living in ego and not who you ultimately are. You have to be beyond who you are today. And that's who we are. We don't live just today or today. We live for who we're yet to become. I'm sorry.
I like it how the Abraham perspective to me of the crucifixion and the resurrection is when they said everything has two sticks. What you don't want, what you do want. The resurrection, the crucifixion, the resurrection, the stuff, you know, and most of us think that we have to fix this in order to get this.
No.
And what they're saying is to stop going back to the crucifixion, to stop going there. Just focus on the resurrection. Just focus on the good, what you want. The most important thing is that we feel good. And to go to that place. And I'm going to just give a little rah-rah for the ego and being here and stuff. And most of you know that I have spent a good deal of this incarnation in the depths of hell, of growing up. I have not even told anybody the extent of the horrors of my childhood. But, in the midst of that, I've held my baby's newborn in my arms. And that's my ego that held those babies in my arms. And I have loved this man. And the ego part of that, I love that we have secret things that none of you ever see. Some of them are sexual and none of you ever see them. And some of them are playful and we can say words that none of you get. That's an ego thing. And I wouldn't give it up for anything. And once I understood this process, and I understand, Jerry, because if I hadn't known that there was another side, I wouldn't have stayed here a second. And to get out of this hellhole, yes. But once I understood that, I'm kind of excited for what I'm still going to create. I might take an unincarnated journey for a while to rest between the next one. But oh my gosh, even if I only use what was possibility from this one egoic perception, there are a billion stories I could write just from that. And I'm eager for those too now. And that to me is when you recognize your true self in the egoic self. And you're in the world, but not of the world, but you're in the world.
The yellow.
And I am in the world.
And I have to go back. I don't want to come back.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm just saying, I've seen it. I've seen enough of the stuff that goes on here. I don't want to see it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And that's right. And this is the beautiful part about it. Once I was able to find, and I found that through the Course in Miracles, is that I do not have to come back. And I do not have to take all my clothes off and go crazy through the streets because God put me in this birthday suit. Okay? I do not have to go crazy about any of it. I don't. All I have to do is understand that what I want and what I don't want is in compliance with what I'm reading here. What I'm reading and understanding is that some of these paragraphs in this book, I might take a day or two just to get through all the nuances of it. And I find that salvation is in almost every chapter of this book. It tells me that I am free. I do not have to come back here again. And so I personally, my choice is to not come back here unless the spirit that is believes that there's something that I can give and be part of. And then his will be done, not mine. Okay? That's just how I've come to the point in my life where I see things. And I've got some issues, folks. I do. You know, it's one of those things. It's one of those things.
How many here know what the Course in Miracles is?
Yeah.
So pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm doing this Zoom thing right now. Carl is part of it, and I have them say, well, you can just read it. You don't have to try to understand it at first, and then read it all again, and it'll come to you a little bit at a time. And I can't do that, folks. I have to know what that paragraph is saying to me. And usually if I get it within the 2 or 3 paragraphs around that one paragraph, I find freedom. I find release in the truth of this. And that's just like you said, Rumi, that was who you were talking about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're going to find that truth in his teachings too. Yeah, it comes from everywhere.
But what you write or think today may be opening the door to something you need to live.
Exactly.
And then later.
Yeah.
When I wrote my first book 30 years ago on I Ching and Taoism, that was later published in China, I go back today and write a commentary on what I wrote that means something to me now. Yeah. But didn't mean that much to me at the time. They were words just coming to me that I needed to experience to move to the next step. Yeah. But what you read, or write, you may not necessarily fully understand today. You have to live the experiences and then come back and say, oh, that's who I am, or that's what I needed to experience, or in order to take the next step to whoever it is you're ultimately going to be. So trying to fully understand what you read today, when you're not prepared to know what it is you're reading, kind of can get you into a little trouble, because, at least for me, because you're taking at face value something that you haven't really had the experience to know what it is you're reading, or what you need the experience to fully comprehend what is being said.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. It's a learning experience. Everyone in here that raised their hand that they'd heard and they know of ACIM have to realize I was introduced to it just 2 months ago. Now, let me explain this. I had bukus of stuff that came to me before I got to it. And then, so when I read it now, I'm like, wow. I think I was talking to Paul one day about it. Why didn't it come to me sooner? But we both agreed it comes to you, the teacher comes when the student's ready. I am always a student. I will always be a student. I don't care. If I'm wrong, I'm more than glad to say I'm wrong. I really am. Yeah.
You know, but it's important, I think, that for all of us to not discount the paths that we go through and the things that we go through. For many years, the only thing that kept me alive is that I was going to save my broken family. And I stayed alive and I went into therapy and I did the hard work for my family. And then there had become a day when I had to recognize that codependency wasn't the path to get where I wanted to go, and then I had to figure that out. But if somebody had tried to take what was inside of me to take care of my family at that point, they would have left me with nothing to work with. I mean, each one of us, we go along, and at one point, maybe the highest thing I can remember one time sitting trying to find a thought that felt better. And I kept trying, and nothing felt better. And finally I wrote, one day I'm going to die and get out of this effing mess. And it was like, crap, I went from a 0 to a 5. And I danced around the house all day going, one day I'm going to get out of this, and it felt so good. What if I couldn't take that step? What if somebody told me that was a bad thing to think? And I was never going to go where I wanted to go if I thought that bad thought. It was the stone, and each one of us are going to do that. You come, and something works, and when it works, I say, yes. I don't care what it is. If what it is if I dance around the house naked for 3 minutes, my life is going to be good. Then don't come around my house when that time is there. You should want to see me dancing naked, okay? It's all good, no matter which one.
Yeah.
Well, part of what really got me with Ken Wilber's teachings is that he says that we come up in stages and we have lines of development and we have waking up experiences that there is like universal experiences of different people waking up and being able to wake up and assist other people to put their experiences out. He also talks about growing up, which is something that, it's a maturity thing that happens as we experience things. He talked about opening up, which is being open to new experiences and new things. He talks about cleaning up the things that are holding you back, the teachings that you were taught that aren't relative and relevant anymore. And he talks about showing up, being who you are with the Spirit manifesting through you. And so as you're reading material, you're going through all these different steps and stages. So sometimes you're a little bit more awake. Maybe you've cleaned up so that you don't have these blocks in you, so you can begin to see. You can acknowledge who you are with the spirit, and so you begin to live into who you are. And that's the thing that really got me about his teachings is that it explains all the different things we've been talking about as far as how you see things at one point. And because when I went through the Avatar course, I was journaling. I had gone through Cameron teachings on journaling, on how to reading. Anyway, how to break blocks. And so I'd gone through that, and I was journaling. And after I went through the Wizards course, I went back and I read my journals, and I'm going, oh my God, how did I ever believe that? Because my whole thinking had shifted because I had a waking up experience. And I knew that this plane of existence was not anywhere near as real as where I had been in my consciousness. I had had a waking up experience. And you look back on this plane and it's like, this isn't anywhere near as real as that was. So as your consciousness shifts, and as you go through waking up and beginning to be able to show up and cleaning up, it changes. And so every time you have that shift and you go back and you read something and you go, oh, that's what that is, which is what Wendy had when she, finally had this thing with Abraham, like, oh, that's what they're saying. And we have these different shifting times, which is what you're going through with.
It's like watching a movie that you really don't care that much about, but all of a sudden there's that one line. That one line in the movie. Wow. That's why I'm watching this movie, so I can get that one line. And it's the most amazing thing. It's almost like the movie was they had this one line that they needed to project. It's okay, now we need to write a movie around this one line. And sometimes it's the most amazing thing. I turn something on Netflix, I think, well, I'll watch it anyway. And boom. There it is. That one line that I needed to see. I know that sounds crazy.
In the Bible, the donkey speaks and God speaks through the donkey.
Yeah.
So anything can be
Well, it's like the music that we knew when we were kids.
Yeah.
Well, 70s some odd, but the words and the music we heard in the 60s and 70s, whatever, that we lived by. And we hear that music again today, and you remember what you were doing at the time. You can look at that the same way as if you lived in a previous time, even though you don't want to believe in reincarnation or whatever. But there are things that you experience today. If your memories go back far enough, you can remember that's what I heard, that's what I was, and it wasn't this time. It was a previous time that I need to remember to become who I need to become. And that's when you think of a lot of indigenous American Indian things, of history, of medicine and the prayer circle that they grew up with and everything over time. Purpose was to remember who you are, who you've always been, not necessarily just today, but you need a vehicle in order to take you back to have that moment that brings you to, okay, this is a starting point, and this is where I need to continue from.
Hey, Greg, you want to say something? You had your hand up a minute ago.
Well, yeah, it was really just kind of like, can we talk a little bit about the individualized experience of this stuff, free from our own spiritual journeys. I mean, letting ourselves, as we talked about the ego, I mean, the resurrection myth itself is kind of the allegory of mastery over the ego. Our goal is to die while still be alive. And I say die in terms of it's not about killing the ego, but it is much more about switching who's in the driver's seat and understanding that it's a tool and a lens to enable and assist with our experience within the realm rather than be the one that is only constantly in fight or flight or reactionary mode. And very much all of the teachings are awesome, but was one to hear from someone that's like, oh yeah, I've died and been resurrected, and here's what it's like, and here's why. So,
Well, I was
all
just
for that.
saying the movie aspect was Robin Williams holding Matt Damien and saying, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. That moment changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all that's the thing though, Greg, is we do have these experiences. We do. It's just like the one line. It was your experience. Wow, that was it. I'm driving the school bus, and I got a whole bus full of kids, and I had this download, and I'm like, I'm staring off into spaces and driving these kids. I'm going, oh, I got to drive the bus. Okay, but I have had these things happen for me in my life, and they usually don't give me warning. It's just like as if I'm asking this question, I'm just debating things in my head, and I wish I wouldn't go into my head to do this debating thing, because then the answer will come, and it's like, I never saw it that way. Really, that's how it really is for me. For me, because every one of us have our own experience. All of us, and it's just we're so uniquely separate, but we are all one. All of us. We're all part of each other. And this is where I say I don't want to come back. I want to go where that one is at. Because that's what draws me now more than anything I can experience.
When you say you want to go where that one is at, who is the one?
That's up to you to decide. What is your decision?
Okay, now
I have
just,
my one.
just to expand a little bit here, the thing that Eastern philosophy and Taoism, and particularly the idea of what is unknowable. What is a knowable universe that is beyond human thought?
All that is.
So if that is something that is there and has 4,000 years of history, and particularly in Eastern thought and philosophy, of what is the Tao? What is the idea of what is unknowable? And it's up to you to find what that is and go there. And so whether you identify that as a being such as a God individual or nature as it exists.
It's just for me, it's a single individual, infinite point, and the point has infinite speed, so it can be infinitely anywhere, and all that is that one point, and that one point is where I want to go back to. That singularity is what I'm drawn to. For me, that has nothing to do with anyone else.
And that is universal.
Universal, and it's your.
Whether or not it is a Christian God.
It has nothing to do with any kind of. It has nothing to do with any of that.
Or whether it's a Laozi, or whether or not it's
has nothing to do
faith.
with any of it.
It's always going back to the one.
Yeah.
And it's not just a Christian thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Or
Right.
It's not even just a religious thing.
That's
I
true.
had,
That's
I had a
absolutely.
therapist one time, and she goes,
Oh, sorry.
the only reason I'm here is to help you find the door, to stop batting your head against the window trying to get out of this room. And she goes, and only you can find it, because only everyone has a different door, and you'll
That's
find
a
your door.
great way to say it.
Yeah, Mark.
I get the point about not wanting to come back, but I location where it was separate from our normal homes.
Mhm.
And we said, we don't want to go back. We don't want to go back. And he said, but that's where you're needed. Because of what we were learning, we could apply it, and we could practice it, and we could help them share it with us. And so I think that's what helped me to realize what I needed
Sometimes
to do
you
with it.
needed to take that message further.
Yes, right.
And that's the point. What you're saying is absolutely correct. It's hearing that and knowing, having a sense of the source from where you came and having the need to expand on that.
Yeah.
And that's a simple core to a lot of going beyond who we are today.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, very much so.
I think it's interesting, just sitting back here kind of watching. There's just a lot of conversation going on. You know, Unity was started about 125 years ago, a little bit more, close enough. Unity of Springfield has been going on for almost 100 years. When Unity first started, they called it the School of Christianity. Because that was the accepted topic. You know, right now, if you listen to what everybody's saying, you're going to hear things about Ken Wilber. You're going to hear things about Abraham. You're going to hear things about Course in Miracles. None of that stuff existed when Charles and Myrtle wrote it. Okay, Christianity was the foundation that we talked about religious things here in this part of the country. And yet, Charles got a lot of his foundation, right, from Native American religion. He got a lot of stuff from Eastern religion, and he had to work it in because that wasn't known back then, right? So Emerson was part of that whole conversation, the transcendental movement. And I think it's really interesting because in Unity we teach everybody has their own truth, right? And I love hearing LB talk about Ken Wilber. And I love Don and Wendy talk about Abraham. I love everybody else talking about Christmas because they're all truths, right? And it's no different than what Charles and Myrtle were doing back. Given the tools that they were given back,
They were expanding.
and I think I see and I hear it just being evolved, and that we can all share our ideas, our truths, and they're all right. and that's what I love about it. You know, when I came here, I thought we were going to be talking about the Shroud because I don't know anything about the Shroud, and I haven't heard anything talked about that.
We've got started, but
I was late, so I
it's kind of moved the way it is.
Which is probably good.
what's that?
No, go ahead.
But all I was going to say was, you know, I thank you for bringing up some subjects that, you know, but I do see it going, you know, out there, and you know, I did want to hear about the Shrouds. You know.
Well, I have a picture. I was going to just show the pictures of why we know that it was him. It's because of the paintings that were done in the chapels. The earliest we know of was right around Constantine. They had to get that image off of something. And so whenever you count all of the images that were painted and put into the Catholic churches around Europe, that image is the one that came off the cloth. And so this here is kind of a date the cloth that leads back to the 4th century or 320, right around Constantine.
So the cloth is dated.
And now they've dated it back by the latest ability to be able to paint living material. It's called the MAX, M-A-X-S, MAX's system that uses X-rays to do so. They have now dated the cloth back to the 1st century, right around the time of Christ. Yeah. Oh, basket, somebody got that good. Oh boy, I done forgot about the money.
We have
Time flies.
announcements.
Yeah.
Somebody doing announcements or anything?
Oh, I don't know. They're in the basket.
you're the grand poobah today.
Yes, I am. Wow.
And you need to come this way. So
Hey,
that
where's
you
Mitch
see
at?
him.
It's his announcement. Oh, okay.
He does it next hour.
All right. Meditation is tonight at 6 p.m. and it is open to everyone. The Unity Drum Circle is this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. They meet the first and third Thursday of each month, and all are welcome to join in. There will not be a 9:15 adult education class next Sunday, May 4th. Next Sunday, right after service, we'll have our Friendship Sunday potluck and quarterly town hall meeting. Please sign in to the foyer, and what food do you plan to bring? The board and staff will present to bring you up to date regarding our present status with all the changes taking place. Everyone is invited to join us for Sue's retirement party. Yay, no! I don't know which way to go with that. Yeah, let me see, I've lost my place here. May 10th, 4 to 7 p.m. This will be a come and go event. Please RSVP by signing up in the foyer. We are one of just a few places in Springfield with no barrier access for folks who are experiencing food insecurity. Anyone who needs food can access our community cupboard without needing any documentation as such as an ID or proof of income. Our community cupboard is stocked by donations. Please consider picking up a few extra items next time you're shopping or donate money, and we'll send someone to shop. All right, save the dates. Community for Music is back this summer on the last Saturday of each month. Community, okay. May through September, we will have local artists performing from our outdoor stage. So bring a chair and join us for our first concert on May 31st at 7 p.m. Mark your calendars for June 14th. The Unity of Springfield will have a booth at this year's Pride Fest celebration. More details coming soon. Did I get them all?
I think you did.
Okay. Did I do that?
So we are
Okay.
On the
Oh,
iPad,
yeah.
there's a finish button.